the formal presentation. The part 1 is the 360-degree view of personal finance. If the word comprehensive financial planning comes, basically it has a 6 parts. First is the cash flow and budgeting, second is insurance planning, third is the investment planning, fourth is the estate planning, tax planning, and last is the retirement planning. If we see the budgeting part, most of the time our mathematics is like income minus expense is equal to savings. But ideally it should be like this: income minus saving is equal to expense. So we should switch from the spending budget to saving budget. And secondly, our savings should be at least 25% of our pre-tax income, and we should invest these savings to achieve our financial goal, and we should keep an emergency fund that is approximate 6 times over our monthly expense easily available to us. The COVID time, we all had a very good experience regarding the importance of emergency fund, because most of the time our income was zero during the COVID time, and that highlighted the importance of emergency fund. Secondly, most of the time we have so many loans and most of our expenses are EMI. So ideally our EMI should be only 25% of our pre-tax income, right? And if it is more than 25%, we should prepay the loan as early as possible. Regarding tax planning, most of the time we go for the tax evasion, right? Tax evasion is basically illegal way of saving tax, and that leads to the poor balance sheet. But ideally we should go for the tax avoidance. Tax avoidance is using the legal method to save the tax, which leads to the strong balance sheet, right? And we should use Hindu undivided family account, that is the HUF account, national pension scheme, as well as various income tax deductions to save the tax legally. Coming to the insurance part, right? This type of insurance, life insurance, health insurance, disability insurance, property insurance, auto insurance, and indemnity insurance, these are must for each and every doctor. And regarding the life insurance, we should buy pure term insurance. Premium paying term should be up to 70 to 75 years only. Sum assured should be 20 times of the annual expenses, and we must not take money back or endowment or ULIP policies. And regarding health insurance, we are doctors, but we should and we must take adequate health insurance. A family floater plan can do for an entire family. The base policy should be of 5 to 10 lakhs, and it should be top up or super top up to 50 lakhs to 1 CR. Now investment planning. Most of the time we invest in gold, we invest in the real estate. Nowadays stock market or equity market is also gaining popularity, and last part is the debt investment. And we should not invest only in the 1 or 2 assets, but we should invest across the 4 assets to adequately diversify our portfolio. Because real estate and equity can beat the inflation in the long term, and they can provide a good growth of our assets. And regarding real estate investment, most of the doctors are champions of the real estate investment, right? But there are so many disadvantages of the real estate, like a high cost. We need to invest for the long term. There might be some legal difficulties and legal documentation. Liquidity constraint is very much, because we can't sell real estate overnight and get money on the next day. And maintenance cost is also there, and nowadays land grabbing is also rampant. These all are the disadvantages. These disadvantages are basically advantages of the stock market, right? Because we do not need any big money to start with. You can start with 5,000 or 10,000 or 50,000 also. No loan is required, right, to get into the stock market. You can increase, stop, or decrease your investment at any time, and you can get back your money at any time. So these are the advantages of stock market. And why to invest in the Indian stock market? The next decade is of India. There will be tremendous growth of India because of many demographic features, like a young population, large population, which are the consumers, and there are a lot of government reforms like digitalization, energy transition, and there is a stable government also. And because of that, believe in India, bet on India, invest in India. And if we see GDP wise, India is now at the number 5 all over the world, right? And Indian stock market is also at number 5. all over the world. And it is likely to go to the number 4 or number 3 also. Similarly, the mutual fund industry is also almost, in a trillions, that is 50 lakh 78 crores mutual fund industry is there in India. That is too huge. And it is also growing tremendously. In last 5 years, it has become almost doubles. And in last 10 years, there is a 6-fold increase in the mutual fund industry. So this all shows that India stock market, Indian mutual fund industry is growing tremendously, and we should invest in the stock market to get the benefit of this growth. If we see the Nifty 50 returns over the last 10 years, it is on an average giving return of 12.6% or more or less if you invest for the long term. So that is a good return, handsome return. Now if you want to invest in the stock market, there are other 4 types of vehicles like mutual funds, exchange traded funds, national pension scheme, as well as direct stocks. I will discuss regarding mutual funds just after my part 1 talk, and Dr. Gaurav Dave will take stock investment. Now another asset is the gold, and gold is the asset for protection. But nowadays it is internationally accepted, it helps in crisis. However, the post-tax return hardly beats the inflation, and it should be 10% of your portfolio. If gold is also working as a hedge against equity, real estate and inflation. If we see this chart, right, this blue line is the chart of the Nifty 50, and this orange one is the chart of the gold. Whenever you see there is a dip in the Nifty 50, this is the COVID time, gold was at a high or at a peak. Similarly, whenever Nifty 50 is down, gold is up. This is because whenever the inflation rises, whenever there is a geopolitical crisis, whenever there is a war, suppose Ukraine war or a COVID crisis, at that time usually the stock market tumbles, and at that time gold increases because gold is considered as a safe haven. So thus gold acts as a hedge against our stock market or real estate investment. And nowadays government has launched this sovereign gold bond, SGB. They are very ideal and suitable vehicle to invest in the gold for the long term. This is for accounted money, right? Because gold and real estate, we have to clarify that. It gives 2.5% interest annually, and the long term capital gain is exempted if we hold till the maturity. So this is the best product if you invest your accounted money in the gold. And last part is the debt. Nobody likes debt, right? Debt is the asset for stability or safety. It works as an anchor, right? And FD, bonds, PPF, SSY, post office schemes and debt mutual funds, all these are options for the debt investment. The return depends on the interest rate, and hardly they beat inflation, but they provide stability and safety. If we want to invest, we have an investment planning for our life goals. The important life goals are retirement, first house and children's education. Other good to achieve goals are big car, international holiday, holiday home and fat Indian wedding. So we had to plan for all this, right? And how can we do this? If our goal is just 3 years away, suppose my son is at present in the 11th standard and I am planning for his college education, but I have only 2 to 3 years now to plan, then I have to put entire money in the debt investment only, because I can't take risk in the equity, because equity can't give you good growth within the 3 years. But if your goal is somewhere between 3 years to 7 years, you can choose a hybrid method in which you can have a combination of debt as well as equity. Suppose the goal is only 4 to 5 years away, you can have majority of debt and a little bit of equity. And if it is 6 to 7 years away, then majority of equity and little bit of debt. But if your goal is suppose 8 years or more than 8 years away, like a retirement planning, then you can select equity or real estate. Now coming to retirement planning, we doctors usually don't believe in the retirement, and that is why we don't believe in the retirement planning also. But we should do retirement planning because we don't have social security, we don't have pension, and personal saving and investment is the only thing which we can do for the retirement. And PPF, that is Public Provident Fund, NPS, that is the National Pension Scheme, and long-term SIP in equity are three mainstays, 3 pillars of retirement planning. Can anyone say he is a Pablo Picasso, who is a famous painter, and a Prince, a musician and singer, both from USA, and they are very famous people. Both are no doubt artists, But was there any other similarity between this? Anyone knows? No, no. No. Both of them had assets of billions. At- but the problem was, both of them didn't had will. Legal will was not there. So there was a long legal battle among their heirs. Okay, who will get what portion of the assets, right? Almost 5 to 6 years were spent, and millions of dollars were spent in the trials only to distribute that assets. So estate planning is very important. I believe many of the neurologists must have worth of millions and billions, right? Right. So estate planning is important, especially at least you should have a legal will, or you can have a power of attorney, probate, trust, right? Now last part is what is the golden rule? Golden rule is the start as early as possible. Why? Because there are three factors. The final amount, what we get after the investment, depends on invested amount, rate of return, and time. This is the formula. But whatever may be the investment amount, rate of return is mostly not in our hand because it is fluctuating. Only thing which is in our hand is time. And see, time is in the logarithmic scale. It is raised to n, right? So as long as you give more and more time, your investment will grow tremendously. So give time to your investment, and that is known as compounding. Compounding is called the eighth wonder of the world, right? Compounding means that the return on investment themselves becomes the part of the investment and start generating returns. If you see this chart, if someone has invested 1 lakh at the rate of 8%, at the 10 years it will become 2,15,000. At 20 years it will be 4,66,000. But after 20 years there is an exponential growth, and the 4 lakh becomes 10 lakh. But you have to wait for this longer period only. So this is the last part in a nutshell. Whatever income you have, save wisely and invest well, and let it compound over the time. Little by little, a little becomes a lot.